Just step out of this delusion of a simple causality. Come on, just step out. Step the fuck out of this delusion of a simple anatomical causality to honor the beauty of how I have come to find Kiefer, how I have come to love Van Gogh, how I have come to love Christ, the Buddha, Wittgenstein. All the webs, all the forms of love, in any way they would just come into my flesh right now. The rule meant him to follow up 100 by 101. There is a layer of truth which is correspondence with experience. There is a layer of truth which is correspondence to the habits of language. Makes it appear that this rule, as it was meant, foreshadowed all the transitions which were to be made according to it. But the assumption of a shadow of a transition does not get us any further, because it does not bridge the gulf between it and the real transition. Picture of the mind. Step out of the fucking delusion of some simple causality. Just step out of this train of thought. Step out of the way in which you feel that thoughts are moving your body, your landscape. This is the nature of repetition. This is the nature of repetition. The patience for discerning how logical atmospheres shift. If the mere words of the rule could not anticipate a future transition, no more could any mental act accompanying these words. Step into vaster causality, step into the courage of accepting. There is a level of ground which is the correspondence with experience. There is a level of definition of truth that is correspondence with experience. There is a level of truth that is standing in the coherence of language. All the webs of influence. Standing in a certain type of coherence of language. Step into the courage of accepting. We meet again and again with this curious superstition, as one might be inclined to call it. How does one withstand such a life in which that the mental act is capable of crossing a bridge before we've got to it? Both of these grounds are no longer necessary. This trouble crops up whenever we try to think about the ideas of thinking, wishing, expecting, believing, knowing, trying to solve a mathematical problem, mathematical induction, and so forth. The morphologies, the dimensions of influence in every fucking aspect, in every moment. Just, I can be so attentive to how things move through me. I can observe the infinite subtle influences that create impulses and tendencies in my every motion, in this very humble space of freedom, this very humble landscape. How does one withstand a life in which both of these grounds are no longer necessary? They walk together. Truly desired sentences, place them in their adequate formation, in their adequate morphology of the call for the outrageous demands. Because I stand in front of you, in front of your purity, in front of your unrelenting, uncompromising purity. I stand before you, I stand with you, like this, with these blades of no compromise, these eyes like blades of no compromise that can pierce through the flesh of the land, through this asphalt. It is no act of insight, intuition, which makes us use the rule as we do at the particular point of the series. It would be less confusing to call it an act of decision, though this too is misleading, for nothing like an act of decision must take place, but possibly just an act of writing or speaking. When I say anatomy, it means that a function of the mind has become so organic that it is functioning continuously. Continuous function is embodiment. An achieved continuous function of the mind becomes anatomical. They walk together. They walk. These achieved landscapes, these achieved logical landscapes, purified in their core formula of joy, walk together in the exact concerts of the fragrances of their ripe flesh, the fragrances of their ripe flesh, their geometries of dignity, simply. So, in a very simple state of mind, in a very simple moment of life, I ask myself honestly, in the fierce brutality of the flesh of the present moment, do I stand in it? Do I stand in it now? Do I stand in it? So then I learn how to discern where my voice is coming from, where the voice of my actions is coming from. I learn they walk together. The tree started to move. The tree started to move. The tree started to move. There is, if you can achieve a body of total, complete freedom, it is always a matter of fucking honesty. What would you want it to do? What would you really want it to do? And understand the resonance of presence in which such a discipline of honesty can function. If you can withstand the possibility of such a domain of existence. We walk together on these fields. We walk together. This is an army of advanced patience, the clear discipline of the earthquakes of patience, the earthquakes of stopping the naive, body of time. The achieved earthquakes of patience, the fractures in our bones attained as landscapes of patience. What do you mean? These friends have achieved the cadence of patience. These friends, these ripe landscape fruits, these ripe wounds, these ripe wound landscapes, these landscapes of fully revealed geographies of pain, the fully revealed geographies of nights, everything that we are oblivious to, the night of our existence, everything that we sleep to, all of this intense flesh in front of which we sleep, this great gate of the fullness of presence, which is the night, this immense gate of facing your own mind, this immense, brutal, wooden gate, heavy. How does one stand awake in front of the monumental flesh of the very night, which is the freedom of mind? You can go anywhere and be anything. How do you withstand this? How do you walk through such a violent weather of possibility? How do we walk together? How do we stand together? What kind of organs of memory can hold together logical landscapes in such an attained ground of adventure? What is this possible adventure? There is simultaneously a guidance of outrageous, simultaneously the earthquake of honesty, simultaneously the realization of basic ground truth. The outrageous will always lead to the very ground of possible truth. The most outrageous, the scathing outrageous will always lead to the very ground of possible birth. What layers of relevant encounter can you withstand? Can you decide space as the most desired encounter? Can you decide any layer of space as such a drive to move through space as if it was the most desired, necessary encounter between shifts of dimensions?
And the mistake which we here and in 1,000 similar cases are inclined to make is labeled by the word "to make." As we have used it in the sentence, it is no act of insight which makes us use the rule as we do, because there is an idea that something must make us do what we do. And this again joins on to the confusion between cause and reason. We need have no reason to follow the rule as we do. The chain of reasons has an end.
What is the nature of presence? What is this power of presence? What is this? What is the nature of attention? This tree started to move. This tree started to move. This tree started to move. This tree, with its lightning morphology of capacity, the way in which the roots can stretch into the ground so as to thoroughly feed all the consequences of a sentence. The force of the decision of a sentence. You can be on the grounds of truth as correspondence to experience. You can stand on the grounds of truth as correspondence in language.
There is a kind of general disease of thinking which always looks for and finds what would be called a mental state from which all our acts spring as from a reservoir. I tried to tempt Turing to say that the fact that a certain extension of the mathematical system is possible is a mathematical fact. The idea being that once the proof is given, doesn't this show something about reality? But unfortunately, I failed to tempt him.
You can stand on the ground of truth defined as correspondence. There is a ground of certainty, there is a ground of stable identity relating to one definition of truth. There is another ground of identity, there is another type of definition of truth, which is the formal, the resonance of formal decisions, the resonance of cultural forms. If you say mathematical propositions say something about a mathematical reality, which expresses a natural tendency, a result of that tendency would be roughly this. We say certain things about animals. There are propositions we all know and propositions about exotic animals which have a certain charm. If you have the idea that mathematics treats of mathematical entities, then just as some members of the animal world are exotic, there would be a realm of mathematical entities that were particularly exotic and therefore particularly charming. Transfinite numbers, for example, as Hilbert says, this realm is a paradise. I'm not going to say if we look into this we'll see there are no transfinite numbers. That is all bosh, but I'll say what, for example, a transfinite number is, the number of, does not appear at first sight if you look into mathematics. There is yet another ground of thorough, transcendental honesty. There is yet another ground of certainty. There is yet another ground of lightning certainty that can develop any morphology of world from the very marrow, the very primordial marrow of a liberated transcendental decision. The number 3 can be the number of apples or the number of roots of a certain equation. If we didn't know how to use 3 outside mathematics at all, we should get no idea of its use if we said it is the number of roots of this equation. For in mathematics, 3 is the number of roots either by definition or by proof. Having the number so and so is used differently in mathematics and outside mathematics. So, with the expression having the number infinite, it will be wrong to think we know how it is used if we say there are infinite cardinal numbers which have it either by definition or by truth. This child knows infinite multiplications. Do I mean to say that therefore infinite is finite? Not at all. I say only that in order to find out the role a number plays, you mustn't look to repeating a mathematical phrase like there are so many so and so's. If you say that mathematical propositions are about a mathematical reality, although this is quite vague, it has very definite consequences. And if you deny it, there are also queer consequences. For example, one may be led to finitism. Both would be quite wrong. There is a model at present, an unclarity. But this doesn't mean that certain mathematical propositions are wrong, but that we think their interest lies in something in which it does not lie. I am not saying transfinite propositions are false, but that the wrong pictures go with them. And when you see this, the result may be that you lose your interest. It may have enormous consequences, but not mathematical consequences, not the consequences which the finitists expect.
Your gift of love, your gift of life, your gift is penetrated thus. Your gift of unbearable beauty, your gift of unbearable joy is responded to thus. Your gift